Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're well this bright spring day, and thank you for joining our webinar, Building AI for Building Answers. This session is primarily aimed at asset owners and property managers, particularly those who use Zutec's Building Document Management solution to store building manuals, where we'll be discussing the power of AI to access information and showcase our new solution, Building AI, powered by Zutec. My name is Maria Hudson, and I'm CMO at Zutec, and I will be your moderator and host for today. And I'm pleased to be joined by Mike White, our co-founder and CTO at Zutec, and Head of Product and Solutions, Jeslin Joy. Welcome, both of you, and thank you for partaking in today's session. During today's session, we'll cover off why purpose-built AI matters for managing building information, how to turn static documents into operational intelligence, the importance of trusted AI environments, how Zutec's building AI boosts productivity and reduces risks, and we'll share some real-world use cases across maintenance, compliance, and decisions and how that works. We'll also provide a live demo so you can see the solution in action, and we'll wrap up with a Q&A session at the end. However, we do want to keep this webinar as interactive as possible. So if you do have any questions throughout the sessions, please do ask them on using the chat board or Q&A tool at the bottom right hand of your screen, and we'll address these as we go. There will also be polls throughout the session, so please do share your insight, as this helps us understand more about your needs so we can support you better. Lastly, this session is recorded, so we can distribute the recording after the call. However, before we get into the crux of today's details, I wanted to share a little bit more about Zutec. For those of you that don't know Zutec, we've been providing O&M creation, digital handover, document and quality management solutions to the construction and property sectors across customers for well over 25 years. Our business started out with supporting the delivery of O&M and building manuals. However, as we've built and grown our business over the years, we've acquired complementary companies such as CreateMaster, which some of you may know as well. Today we're enabling best-in-class solutions across the Ariba stages of the building life cycles. As the UK's number one O&M and building management document provider, we provide comprehensive digital data sets, structured data in one platform, dashboard analytics and reporting, and reliable, safe and secure environments for information access. Today, we have over 500 customers. We have processed over 35 million documents, digitized 13,000 buildings, and work with some of the biggest asset and property owners, and you can see some of them on the slide here. So when we've been talking to our customers and the industry at large, we consistently hear the same things time and time again, particularly when it comes to accessing data. And I'm not going to labour on all the points on this slide now, but I think the general consensus is that data and documents isn't always easy to find. There was a recent stat in a survey from Asset Infinity conducted not long ago, and 80% of employees that were surveyed said they wasted an average of 30 minutes per day trying to retrieve data in manual processes or inefficient environments. And this is generally because critical data is locked away in static folders and users find it hard to access. There is vast amounts of vast volumes of data and they don't know where to look. When they do find documentation, they have to dig through lengthy files to find the right information that they need. Data discovery is sometimes time intensive and organizations don't always have the right resources to find it. Some simply don't have access to data. And it's always hard to find data if it's duplicated across a system or finding the right data. But last but not least, I think we're hearing a lot that asset owners and building owners and facilities managers really want to turn that building data into operational value. And that's what we're here really today to talk about, getting more value out of that data, whether it sits in Zutec or another system, and really taking the pain out of finding documentation and information, and essentially democratizing data so it really is easy to ask, find, and act upon when you get it. So to kick off and get everybody really warmed up for today's session, I've put the first poll live. You can find the poll in the poll section on the bottom right hand of the screen. And I'd like to ask everyone on the call if they'd be happy to provide their answers. And that is to how long does it typically take you to find critical information? So if you can all submit your votes. And I can see information coming in already or votes coming in already. And generally, people are saying they either can't find documents or it takes 5 to 15 minutes. No one is saying actually under 5 minutes. But generally, it looks like documentation, as we saw in the survey that I shared, it takes around 15 to 30 minutes for people to find that information. So thank you everyone for partaking in that and getting warmed up and into the session. So what is the answer to getting to that information? And I think AI has been everywhere over the last few years, and AI really is that kind of answer to getting access to the information easily. And AI adoption in building asset management has been accelerating pretty quickly, from under a quarter of businesses using it to over a third within the last year. And I think we're seeing that across all sectors. And Zutec want to be part of accelerating that adoption within our solutions. Additionally, a lot of asset owners and property management companies plan to increase investment and consider AI essential for future competitiveness and productivity. And there are lots of AI tools out there for things like maintenance, tenancy management, and analytics. And users are already finding measurable efficiencies and cost savings. And what we want to do is add that to finding building information and being able to access building information, which is particularly important if you're managing things like golden thread as an asset owner. But we understand that most companies are really probably in that experimental phase and pilot phase at the moment and in the early stage of rollout. So this is why we're setting up these sessions, really so that we can support our customers in understanding not just about AI, but how they can use it with their information. So that leads nicely on to our next poll, again, to find a little bit more about how you are using AI within your organization. And I think that question really is, if I've put out there on that poll now, but are you using AI-enabled tools in your organization today? So again, if you're happy to submit your answers, and already we can see that, yes, most of you are using it occasionally, some of you regularly, and a few are using it and running pilots at the moment. So I think probably many organizations are at different stages, and it's probably dependent on the type of organization you are, how big or small you are, and the investment that's going into it. But it's good to see that most of you are trialing some sort of AI. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Mike, and he's going to talk you a little bit more about building AI and what we've done to bring this solution to market. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Maria. Move the slide on there. I think it's the next one. So what have we developed to bring this change? So for our first AI initiative, we have decided to build a AI intelligence layer onto our building document management solution. We saw that this is the greatest opportunity to deliver immediate value to customers. So in September, we launched an early alpha with a select group of customers, giving them access to the AI-powered chatbot and allowing us to start to really validate real-world use cases and see kind of how they use it. So we're now moving into the next phase of the launch for a full solution. We're calling it Building AI. And during this, it's the beta phase really. So during this phase, all building doc management customers will gain access to Building AI. So you can actually go on now after this webinar and log into your projects and use this. And at its core, as I mentioned, it introduces this intelligence layer, enabling faster, more intuitive information retrieval through a conversation interface. And so the really important thing is your information doesn't change. We've just transformed how you interact with it. Do you want to move on? Next slide there, Maria. So again, we're driving the operational value piece, and we're seeing strong adoption of the chatbot across. You can go back one, actually. I still have a few bits to cover on this, although they're not on screen. So we're seeing a strong adoption of the chatbot since we started the beta phase. And we really began core users as property managers, and now it's spreading across owners, operators, consultants, contractors, and FM teams. So it really shows that the building information is no longer siloed. It's been actively accessed by all the different operational stakeholders. This is really where we're adding the value. So now you can move on there a bit. So this is really important piece to it. And there's a lot of powerful generic AI tools, and I'm sure everybody's used them. OpenAI, ChatGPT, Claude. There's a bunch of them out there, and they tend to sit on top of open data without the context of construction and building operations. Not just the context, but the nuance, I should say, of both of those disciplines. And this often leads to inconsistent answers and limited traceability and concerns around their data security. So with building AI, we've taken a different approach. It's designed specifically for the built environment, and operating with a curated, governed, grounded data set that's based on your actual documents and information. So it's a clear, traceable way. We citate every answer that comes back so you can see what document it came from. So it's really about making the retrieval of your information as fast as possible. And it runs on a secure environment. So we don't actually ship any of your data through APIs or anything out to third-party AI providers. And this is very common in the industry. All of your data stays within Zutec control servers all of the time. Moving on there, Maria. So in the real world, what does this mean for the end user? I mean, there's really kind of, at the moment, 3 high-level kind of buckets of questions you can kind of do. So in the first place, it's obvious you can search for a document. So, for example, I had a user a couple of weeks ago was looking for the warranty of the glazing on the balcony, and they couldn't find this through search and through filters. It was difficult to find. Chatbot found it immediately. So that kind of fits the first kind of category, search for document. The second one is really about being able to extract operational details. Had another user, they had a fault code on the lift and they couldn't find the lift manual. So they just typed in lift fault codes and up came all the fault codes, and they're able to track down to the document which was in there, but they couldn't find it through the filters and the search. And they're able to then understand what procedure they could undertake next through the chatbot to get the lift issue solved. And then the last type we call holistic questions. This is where there's information scattered throughout your project, and you might have a question that's kind of it requires various pieces of information to answer fully. So, for example, like how is fire protection designed in the building? This will go and pull information across your documents and present you with the answer. So that's kind of the real world practical use cases of how the chatbot's currently used and what it's designed for. Now, in saying that, we're continually making improvements. We ran one of these webinars 4 weeks ago, I think it was. And since then, we've made a lot of updates. One of the areas we're obviously always working on is smarter answers. At any one time, we can check the answer accuracy and answer coverage, and we're always trying to identify areas where we can make it better. So if you went back to the start of our journey, you'd have certain answers not giving good answers, and now they're way better than they were. And that's going to be a journey, I think, for a lot of these AI systems. So it's all about driving that. Then, of course, we've added a lot of features in the navigation side. So now when answers come back, you can give the feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down. You can copy the answer. You can actually audio playback the answer through audio tools as well. So it's a bit of meeting those accessibility tools that AI systems have by standard. And you can also bring up the user guide as well. Some users had complained, user guide appears on launch. You can now bring it back anytime, so you can read that. So it's available in the top left corner. And then finally, we're bringing in some of the other kind of AI features that people expect in the tooling now, which is session restore. So you can look at all the other conversations you had and pull them back up. So if something was found a couple of days ago, you can now bring it back up, and it stores the citations and the information. So the point about this is going to be a journey, and we're going to be rapidly releasing updates to the tool, and you're going to see them as you use it. So on to one of the, do you want to take the quizzes, Maria?
Yeah, so we're on to our third poll. Thank you, Mike. That was interesting. So thanks for going through that with us. So back to the audience again. What is your biggest concern about AI in building management? So some answers there around data security, accuracy and hallucinations, lack of citations or evidence, regulatory exposure, reliance on AI surface data without fact checking, change management, and user adoption. So again, if you can click on the poll in the bottom right hand side of the corner and add your answers, that would be great. And then I'm seeing already, from some of your answers, data security is actually coming in as a top. Obviously, concerns around that and what's happening with data. And as Mike said, with our solution, we do have an environment which is very secure. So all your data does never leave the environment that we have built. Accuracy and hallucinations, another one, obviously the accuracy of your data, and then lack of citations and evidence. So on that note, actually to share, some of this stuff and, how accurate and secure our own platform is and show how citations work, I'm going to hand over to Jez, who's going to be doing a live demo. Thank you, Jez.
Thanks, Maria. I'll start sharing my screen now. And screen number 1, I think. Let's bring this up. Oh, nice. Can you see my screen? All good?
Yeah,
Hello?
is it?
Looks good.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. That's good.
I realized I was muted to go for it.
So, as Mike was mentioning earlier about the chatbot and the iterations that we did, so I'll take you through what we have done over the last few weeks from our first webinar into the second webinar. So we have made some improvements as well to the chatbot. So the building AI specifically starts with a nice little landing page that tells the end user about how do I interact with the chatbot, giving a bit of interaction about how do I interact with the information, ask questions in a plain language, as Mike mentioned earlier, right? Show me the lift fault codes, show me the details about fire strategy documents, etc. So the key is asking questions in a plain language, and then you go into asking, narrow down a bit more and rephrasing a question to ask follow-ups. So the building AI now understands the follow-up context and tries to respond back with the knowledge it has. So as I get into the system, right? So on the left-hand side, so we made some more improvements over the last couple of weeks. We can now actively look at user guide, turn on and off. We can look at the history of all our conversations that we have had in the past and the type of messages that we have been asking it. So let me demonstrate to you what this tool can actually do now, right? So this is sitting on top of your O&M manuals that has been compiled and you already have access to it. So the way I'm going to do this is probably in 3 buckets. So bucket number 1 is going to be asking a vanilla question, maybe something simple as finding a document or a fact. Bucket number 2 will be about operational information. It's about how do you maintain and respond to an asset. And probably the bucket number 3 is about holistic understanding the building and the system. So let's start with the first one, which is about a vanilla question. So it's simple direct lookups that we need to ask. Right? So let me ask the question about fire ratings, for example. Right? Now, given that you have got all the Building Safety Act and all the nuances around finding fire safety and fire critical elements, let's see what information this has come back with. Right? So it tells me that, yep, the fire rating for the door themselves, yep, has been added. It tells you that there's a missing document, but it also gives you a citation on the right-hand side saying, this is taking it from this document, and then it is giving you information on the citation side of things. Now let's look at it in a bit more depth, right? So who supplied metalworks, right? Let's ask it the question and see what it actually comes back with. So what's happening here is your simple direct questions is being converted and you're getting lookup responses that is immediate, and then that sees finding information. It takes seconds and not hours or not minutes. Right? So here it actually is coming to me saying, metalwork was supplied by Metal Inc. Fabrications Limited. All the details about where they are referred to is available in the source documents. And when I click on the citations, I'm able to see the details about the address, the details about what was supplied, what provision of documents it has. And now you might come up with a scenario where you go, I need this information to send to somebody, or I need this information to download for my contractor. So I can click on bash download, and then it'll download the files that I can then share with anybody. Right? So this is again one of the requests that we had in our first webinar. So we thought it might be better to add it and show you guys that anything is possible, right, with this data that sits on the platform. So now moving on. So that was just giving an idea about the vanilla kind of questions. Now let's ask it some operational questions. Right? So earlier we heard about lift fault codes. So let's take a scenario where I would say the lift is stuck. Right? What is the emergency procedure? Right? Let's see what it comes back with. So a live operational situation where your teams on site want to understand, how can I actually get people out of it? How do I unstuck this? And what is the emergency procedure? Right? So that's what this is all about. Let's see what it comes back with. So the interesting fact is, again, all this information is now sitting on grounded truth or grounded data set that is in the O&M. So it's not going to the web and searching for a generic response. It is looking at a specific O&M manual. It is looking at what are the remedying measures that's been supplied under emergency procedure, and then it's bringing to the user on screen. And when I'm looking at citations, it's also going to give me the details about from which O&Ms, what is it actually picking up. So you can cross-reference that and then open the document and see what's been mentioned in the document. So it's about quick retrieval, ability to take informed decisions at a moment's notice, right? In short. Again, I'd ask it some another type of example, like how do I maintain my boiler? Right? Now, I might be a user who just wants to understand how do I maintain a piece of kit in my unit, or an asset manager wants to understand what is the recommended maintenance guidelines. So as you can see, I'm able to just ask it questions about how do I go about this operational task, and it's giving me the information about this. Right? So that is really powerful in the hands of operational teams. Now, it gets a bit more interesting when you start asking questions like a holistic one, where you say, describe the fire protection measures in the building. Right? Now, this is probably not a single point fire protection measure. It's a combination of active and passive systems. So it's about trying to understand what is in your data set, and then how do I then bring it back to the user that he can literally assimilate it quickly. Right? So that's the whole intent of the holistic kind of pipeline that we have. And it becomes really important because you have to scour through a number of parameters to get a holistic view on your documents that you currently have. Now, you can see it is telling me about the address details. It's telling me about the key components on passive fire protection walls, intermittent sealing on lift shaft doors, rock wool insulation by Hilti. So you know holistically what's going on. So you probably want to ask a follow-up question going, elaborate on rock wool insulation as an example, right? So you're building up, you can start adding layers and layers on top of your previous questions, and then start understanding in depth about what is in your documents. And at any point in time, if you think the answer needs to be more detailed and grounded back to the document, you can refer back to your references or citations that is on the citations menu, right? So as you can see now, right? So it gives me details about rock wool piece, and it tells me the summary of the rock wool being semi-rigid, full-fill pad designed for semi-sealed masonry cavities. Right? Just giving an example of what is possible and what is potential with this tool. So the way I want to actually phrase it is this is the highest value tier. The AI synthesizes across multiple systems, materials, and safety measures, giving whole building picture, and that is not a folder structure that could not surface this information. So this is really important for this context. So shall we go back into the slides, Maria?
Yes, I'll just bring them up for you, Jez.
Perfect. So in a sense, the demo I showed to you is about bridging the gap between how the building gets built, how the O&Ms are put together, and how it will help the ops team to assimilate, synthesize information. Right? So one of the biggest challenges in the built environment is that information created during construction rarely flows into operations in a nice structured manner. It's fragmented most of the times. But this building AI definitely bridges the gap, the turning building documentation into usable operational intelligence. Right? So coming specifically on the bullet points that's outlined here, right? So again, as we all know, buildings will generate thousands, tens of thousands of documents, especially with the Building Safety Act and with all the legislations that is asking for more evidence that is backed on how you have built the property. Right? So you're sitting on thousands of documents at handover, but operation teams don't want documents. They want answers. They want operational intelligence. So that's one of the key things that I want to emphasize. Then we are talking probably about, again, Building Safety Act and Golden Thread, again, goes hand in hand. It's about from cradle to grave, or if you're looking at the whole life cycle of a building, it's about regulations are enforced to emphasize what's the best practice. Right? Now, the information that is coming throughout the life cycle needs to be stitched together and then need to be made available for anybody or any regulators or anybody to access this. Now, we have now got the ability to connect all of that through this AI chatbot and get that assimilated information. Now, what this does, again, going back to what we started earlier, it is going to definitely increase the productivity across portfolios. Right? So, so in short, if I would say, asset managers are calling asset owners constantly. Right? We know that, right? One call per trade, even 10 to 15 calls a week. Right? And that's what hours lost in trying to just pass the information from a silo to somebody and go, there you go, and work with the piece of information. So that way, we are putting the information into the hands of users who can literally ask questions. And that's where I go into simple and intuitive. As you saw, it is all on natural language queries. So just ask in plain language gives you the responses. And then this is all about reducing risks and improving compliance. And when you talk about an individual building, great, but think about buildings are getting added constantly on a portfolio, right? They're getting refurbished. Data is getting migrated from legacy systems. And we are trying to bridge those silos and then trying to bring a unified layer on top of it that scales with your portfolio, integrates the handover data and new developments and existing projects alike, and creating a single source truth, right? That's the key essence I want to leave you with. The next slide, please, Maria.
Actually, Jez, just before we go on to the next slide, we do have a couple of questions, which I thought we could address now, if that's okay. So the first question is there a need or benefit of having more detailed metadata to improve the efficiency of the AI system? Is this something to be asked of those compiling safety files and O&Ms?
For what we have got right
Jess?
now, yeah, sure. Do you want me to?
Yeah,
sure. So the method we are using is called as RAG pipeline, or retrieval augmented generation. So we are not specifically bound to the metadata on a register or on a sheet that's being supplied. We are holistically looking at the data, the text, the body of the content that is in the documents, right? So this helps us respond back to the regulatory needs and the queries at much ease. So short answer is no. For the solution that we have right now, we do not need additional metadata to it. But going forward, if there is a way to add additional attributes at the point where you specify the contracts, that will definitely help in improving the quality of the data. One of the key facts here is RAG can retrieve what's in your documents. It is not going to make the documents better, but then we need to look at the other facet wherein we try to make the information deliveries coming from the contractors more robust and more regimented. So that's something in hand or hand in glove will actually make this a bit more robust and much more efficient. So that's on that first question from my side, right?
Anything else to add, Mike, from your side?
No, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. Like, it doesn't, where a lot of people look at this in the initial instance, they think, oh, well, do I need, it's a good question, like, do I need the metadata? It actually goes right into documents and it pulls out the information from inside your document. So it works without any metadata, which is the interesting thing, you know, and sometimes better as well.
Brilliant. And then the next question is, can the AI function locate a specific document that the user perhaps needs to review, such as floor plan and drawing? He wants to take that.
Yes, in short, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. In short, yes. Again, in short, yes. All it does is you need to check for a lift certificate, or probably a warranty certificate on a boiler, or probably on a washing machine, right? So you just need to refer to that, and it's going to fetch that information straight back out from the documents, right? In short.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Next slide.
Okay, so what is that we're doing, right? So Building AI is designed to support both existing Zutec customers and new asset owners alike, as I was saying, right? Where you have to digitize information from silos. Right? So when you look at existing asset owners, it's about customers are already using Zutec for building documentation. They can immediately benefit from the Building AI. There's no migration required. It is just, you have a button on top of your register, document register. You click on Chat with Building AI, and then that will bring you with the interface that I just demonstrated to you, right? It's available now. It is now no additional setup is needed. We have been doing background migration, and I think we are at 98%, Mike. Would that be right?
97.
Yeah. We are at 97% at this point in time, meaning all our legacy customers are already onto this technology. It's just about the remaining 3% is going to get in over a period of time, but you have access to it now. Now, then the next piece comes about structured handover, right? So when new buildings are handed over, right? So as responding to the earlier question as well, it's about how do we make this information a bit more resilient? How do we make sure the contractors provide the right information? How do we make sure we enrich the building with the intelligence model? So we can really push this forward to the next league by curating the quality of data that's coming into the platform. I'm not saying that not all data is good, but you as viewers here understand we have got differences in the quality of data produced by different supply chain and different trades. So it's about how do we rationalize and how do we get that going. So structured handover really helps in that side of things. Then coming to migrating existing buildings. This is another important part. A number of you already have got information sitting on SharePoint, probably, or probably on OneDrive, or probably sitting on your own flash drives, or depends. You've got a myriad of silos in which this information is sitting. Now, you have the option now to bring all those fragmented data across folders, your legacy systems, into a unified platform that helps you bring intelligence to your data set, right? And then data enrichment, again, touching on the golden thread principles, it's data improves continuously, meaning once you finish practical completion, at the point you hand over the building, that data becomes static. No, that's not true. That's when the asset is born. So how do we keep the operational intelligence live is by enriching that data over a period of time. This is not a one-time upload. This is about getting the most up-to-date information loaded onto the system so it becomes a stronger golden thread, and there are better outcomes as we progress. And then the last bit on that point is once we get that structured data set in terms of defining what deliverables are at the point in operations phase, organizations can unlock additional intelligence solutions on top of the same foundation. For example, we are looking forward to a number of solutions like building safety case, compliance dashboards, risk management, etc. That's all on the roadmap. But what this truly unlocks is the ability to create additional solutions that can alleviate the pain for the operational team, right? And bridge that whole gap. So I think we are moving next into the next poll, and then with that, I'll just hand over to Maria.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jez. I hope you all find that insightful in terms of seeing the solution in action. We are on our fourth poll. So what would deliver the most operational value for your organization? And the answers are fast access to data, more informed decision-making, reduced operational risk, compliance-led insight, easier access to maintenance insight, all of the above. So select the answers that relate to you if you can. That poll is live if you're happy to submit your vote. And just with the answers coming in, I can see, the first and foremost is faster access to data and documents. I think probably from the first poll where most of you said that, it can take up to 30 minutes to find something, getting access to the right information quickly is of utmost importance to most people. It saves with productivity, efficiency, and all those good things. Second is easier access to maintenance insight. You saw from Jez how quickly it is to surface that information that you need quickly rather than digging through folders and files. So I think you've seen today that, your data can be elevated with a tool like this. And then reduced operational risk, and lots of you saying all of the above. So thank you to those that have responded to that poll. We do have another question, actually, Jez and Mike, so we'll read it out now. And that question is, can the AI pick up data text from scanned documents and text within drawings? So I don't know who wants to take that.
Yeah, I can take that. I mean, yeah, it does basically. There's a lot of text information on drawings, which is something I found surprising. But yeah, it basically it accesses all the text in any of your files.
Brilliant, thank you, Mike. So just wrapping up before we go into any final questions that you have for the day for the audience. I think everyone's seen that, you can get instant access to your building answers if your data is in Zutec or through our building AI tool. That significantly saves time, boosts productivity, and reduces risks for organizations. So hopefully that has been insightful, as I say, for you all, and you've seen the power of what AI can do, particularly for your building information. I do now want to hand over for any questions that you have. I know we've been answering some as we go, but if there is additional questions, please do answer, put them on the question or the chat at the bottom. If you do want to ask questions offline or directly, please feel free to reach out to either your account team or responding to an email that you've received from us on the webinar. We can put you in the right direction to get those questions answered directly. We do have a couple that have come in, actually, Jez and Mike. A question around kind of more of the complex building documents in building manuals, like building certifications and drawings. How does the AI actually kind of understand those? Maybe you can dig a little bit deeper into that if one of you is happy to take that.
Do you want to go for that, Jez?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to understanding the type of documents that, especially on the certifications and warranties and probably your audit reports, we have built in dedicated pipelines that starts looking at the drawing or the document in a markdown format. So Markdown basically is stripping out all the formatting and all the unnecessary colors and everything, right? It's just a simple structure of document, basically with the text and tables. So from that, we extract all the key information that we need as part of the as part of understanding what the information is contained within those. And then when the chatbot then starts asking questions, it retrieves those chunks or those points from the markdown in our vector store and then starts bringing that up. Mike, do you want to add anything to that? Anything more to that?
I mean, look, I think it's for me, it's not so much what it does with the files. It's more about how we actually access them in the pipelines. We identify the type of question, where the information is, and then it's less about pre-preparing it, more about retrieving the right answer. So that's why we've built out these kind of like, because we call them retrieval pipelines. There's different ways of getting different types of information. So kind of that's how I see the problem, less about, putting it up or looking at what's there.
So it would be right in saying then, so just to re-articulate that, so it's not about what specifically, again, the same approach holds valid or any type of documents basically that goes into the platform. So
Essentially,
it's
yeah.
not specifically to, yeah. So it doesn't have to be just certifications of warranty, O&Ms, drawings, your.
What I will say is though, what you do see from time to time in these building doc management systems is sometimes you'll see a PDF file, and a PDF file will have like, it'll actually not be a single PDF. It might be 20 or 30 merged PDFs into one thing, given a generic. And that's the thing I would say is where, you know, really, if you want faster retrieval, more accurate retrieval, not doing things like that, you know, that's where the only thing I would say on it is to make your files, you know, directed as to what they are, rather than having these big merged buckets of files, which we've seen, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it still works with them, but it's going to come down to coverage accuracy and retrieval time.
Great, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jez. Another question that's come in. What is the difference between searching for text on something like Google and Zutec in terms of accuracy of building drawings and types of documents, years, revisions, that sort of thing? If one of you is happy to answer it.
Do you want to give it a go? And then, so look on Google search is a big index. It's like a telephone directory. You know, you put your piece of text in and it goes and looks at this index, and that index then points to a website, and it's pretty fast. Obviously, it's very fast. Well, on Zutec, you know, all of your content that you've uploaded, particularly for this AI system, there's a term they call it. It's called ingestion, where all your data gets ingested into this AI system. And it's not just your data, it's all of the information within the files, no matter what they are. So when you ask a question, there's the best way to kind of describe it is it looks at your question, looks at the keywords in your question, and it looks to find parts of your documents where it has word similarity or word relationship similarity, and then it pulls those pieces out of your documents to try and find the answer. So it's very, very different. One, it's an index. One is a very deep dive into your files to try and get the actual answer, and then formulates it into English language.
Brilliant, thank you, Mike.
So
and
all I would say,
sorry, Jez, carry on.
Sorry, just to add on that, right? This Zutec is built on your grounded data source, meaning it's your data that it is actually trying to find, whereas Google is actually trying to find everything right on the web. So it's your grounded information that is belonging to your organization, to your project. That's the key difference that I would say. All right, Maria, go for it.
Great. And as a follow-on to that, what is expected of document controllers using the tool?
Do we really need document controllers for this? So the way I would say is you need document controllers to find documents or review documents, etc. Right? This is, you give the tool, you give access to users who want to find information, give them the tool, let them find the documents themselves. Right? Take the document controllers out of it for retrieving the information. Maybe for putting the information into the platform as uploading documents, yes, but not for retrieving it.
Great.
Well, it's part of that retrieval approval, retrieval agree, but approval and making sure that it's checked, because we're like our retrieval system, our chatbot gives citations to ensure that it brings you back to your original documents so you can check your sources.
Thank you. And then going back to that secure piece, both how secure is the AI environment and how is our building data protected when using building AI? Maybe you can delve a little bit deeper into that, just to, because that obviously was one of the key points that came up in the poll.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I decided we should do as a company on this is to make sure that, you know, your customer data doesn't go outside of Zutec's, what I would call it, security sandbox. It's essentially, it's Zutec controlled servers. And there's a lot of things happening in AI. I see it myself. And it's really important that I think companies attempt to do everything they can to protect your data. And by doing what we've done, we've kept it really safe because we don't ship it to anyone else. It doesn't go off to a service that we don't know anything about. A lot of tools you see now in the industry will be talking with some of the larger AI companies, and you don't really know what they're doing with your data. You've no idea, and they're doing something with it. You're sure of that. But in our case, it's all within Zutec's remit, and it never leaves it. And it's really important to me. I think it's a really important piece that we maintain that as part of our strategy.
Great, thank you, Mike.
Even when you look at Copilot, for example, again, or other providers, they have distributed data centers that is distributed across the geography. They load balance it, and you never know where the data gets shipped. And then you have to check some boxes to explicitly state, yeah, you give permission to use that feature, right? So you knowingly or unknowingly are shipping out data as part of the security framework to go into a distributed data center of the provider's choice. So here it's all contained.
Yeah, we did get some feedback, mind you, to say some customers would have no issue with that, and could we make it an opt-in feature, which is something we're looking at, which is totally fine. It should be totally opt-in in my view if it's something you want to use, but we have been asked for it, which is interesting.
Interesting. Thank you both. That is the final questions that have come in for today. So thanks so much for going through that with us all on the call. What I wanted to wrap up by saying is if you do have any questions or you want to see the solution in more detail, please do reach out to us at any time. Please post your questions through to us. We'll be happy to pick up anything that you have an interest in. We're trying to build this around what our customer needs and wants as well. And we're getting feedback all the time. And for those that are using it and using it more and more often, please do feedback, because this is a learning process. And as Mike said during the session, this is a continue improving with new features and updates being added almost weekly. I will close the session for today. Thanks again, Mike and Jez. Thanks to everyone that's joined. And I hope you have a good rest of the afternoon. Thank you all.
Thanks for hosting, Maria.
Thanks all.